clear, glittering water of Tahiti pulls you into paradise. The tranquility of a sunrise dip in a peaceful lagoon is perfection until you find a body floating face down. Today we chat with Cathy Ace about The Corpse with the Pearly Smile. Welcome to Blackbird Writers Presents Author Interviews. I'm Sharon Lynn, and welcome to you, Cathy.
Thank you very much for having me, Sharon. Nice to see you. Hello, everybody.
I'm so glad that you could make it. This is just a absolutely wonderful book, and I learned so much, and I was just thoroughly entertained the whole time. So it was one of those, it's like, okay, I'll start this, and I'm still reading it, and I should be doing something else, and nope, not putting it down. So the Tahiti
Perfect.
setting
Absolutely perfect. I'm so pleased you enjoyed it.
really did, really did. The Tahiti setting is just incredibly alluring. It's paradise. So tell us a little bit about how you came to choose it.
Well, I travel a lot. I should preface everything I say by admitting that. Always have done, always will do. Fingers crossed. And the first time that I arrived in Tahiti, yes, I've been fortunate enough to go there more than once. Um, I just fell in love with the place. I mean, it's really hard not to be perfectly honest with you. It was a little bit humid for me, but the sea breezes do tend to blow the humidity away sometimes. Um, and wherever I go, whatever I'm doing, always on my mind is, might I set a book here? Kate Morgan travels the world, as do I. So I'm always on the lookout for somewhere that I think, yes, this is worthy of setting a book in this place because there's enough to say about it, as well as a murder mystery to solve. And I was just enjoying being in Tahiti, being on Tahiti, and I happened to go into a fabric store. I mean, I'm always because I travel so much, many years ago, I gave up buying fridge magnets because a fridge can only take so many fridge magnets. So then I morphed into Christmas tree decorations because they're really good because you only have to put them out once a year. You can cope with living with them for a little while, then you put them away. But you have all the lovely memories when you put them up. But on this occasion, I decided that I would buy some fabric to make some cushion covers in a room that we've got here where we've got all our travel stuff. And I was in that fabric store, and there was a small group of ladies chatting away at the checkout at the till, and they were speaking in French, guessing that we tourists couldn't possibly understand them. And the specific nature of their conversation, which I won't reveal, but it had to do with deaths that every one of their families had suffered. And as soon as I heard that conversation, I thought, I never thought about that. I'll take a bit of a look into that. And because I love history and architecture and art, as well as having a good, solid background story, that was what twisted Tahiti to become the perfect place for me to set this specific story.
And it really was just so shocking. I mean, certainly they never promote those kinds of it's a spoiler, so we're not going to tell you what it is, but wow, as it is unfolding, you're like, oh.
Yes,
So
yeah, yeah. Scratch the surface of paradise, and there you find slightly non-paradisical aspects of life. Yeah.
absolutely. So you did mention the humidity a little, and Kate definitely feels it and is annoyed by it a lot. And then also Kate's
I
husband.
gave her that quality with which I share with
Yeah.
her. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So with that and the homesickness, are there any other, difficulties that you encounter when you travel?
Really, really not. Humidity is a big deal for me. It's funny, my sister's traveled a great deal as well, and she loves humidity. I, on the other hand, I just can't cope with it. I find it more than draining. I find it really irritating. But when you are somewhere where it becomes unusually humid. It can become unusually humid here in the mountains of British Columbia. But you kind of put up with it and fight through. But if you're on vacation, the last thing you want to do is be feeling like a wrung out rag. So yeah, humidity is my favorite thing. Insects tend to avoid me. They gravitate towards my husband.
They love me and they avoid my husband.
I feel very sorry for him for that. But but yeah, well, he's the one who gets them, so poor thing. But I do. The humidity is one thing, and the other thing I don't like, which I really didn't reveal it or make much of it in this. I hate sand. I hate sand getting everywhere. Which, if you're on a beach vacation, sand is, well, you can't really avoid it, can you? But no, I'm not a lover of sand.
It seems like something people are always like, oh, I can't wait to be on the beach. And I'm in Southern California. We have a boat in San Diego. I go there a lot. I never go to the sand. I love the water, just paddleboard on the water, no sand. Same thing. It gets everywhere. It never goes away.
Never does.
Taking a dog to the beach. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, no, 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 no.
All right. So the opening scene in The Corpse with the Pearly Smile has Kate doing a sunrise lagoon dip. It's just a beautiful scene, but she doesn't swim. So I'm wondering if you can swim.
No, 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 no. Brought up at the seaside on the coast of South Wales, went to the beach frequently, hated the sand, of course, but I can't swim. No, my dad thought it would be a good idea to throw me in the sea when I was about 3 years old on the basis that I would float and I would find my confidence. My mother screamed into the sea to grab me and pick me up. And that was it. I've never been able to swim. Do you know what? Actually, I'm lying. Before my 32nd birthday, I decided I would go to the local swimming pool in South London, where I was living at the time, and take swimming lessons. My gift to myself was before I turned 32, I was therefore able to jump into the deep end of a swimming pool, know that I could float up to the top, and swim to the side of the swimming pool. So my brain knows that I can swim. And if I'm in a swimming pool where I can put my feet down, I'm like Esther Williams herself. So long as I'm doing backstroke and there's no water getting on my face. And Kate has this a similar relationship with water. She loves looking at it. She doesn't mind being in it so long as she can put her feet down. And if she's sort of up to here, she loves that sort of buoyancy that comes along with being in the water. But once my feet are up, if I know I can put my feet down, I'm okay. I can float around for hours on my back and I'm very happy to do so. Once I know I can't put my feet down, absolute terror takes over. I swim like a brick at that point.
Well, yeah, I mean, the reason I asked the question is the her feelings while she was in the water are just so realistic. That was like, this sounds like somebody who doesn't know
Oh,
how to swim.
they are real.
So one of the lovely things about Tahiti, of course, is it's Polynesian. It's also French.
French.
So can you tell me a little bit about, the names and some of the language words that Kate picks up while she's there?
Well, I'm not going to attempt to mangle the language because listening to it and seeing it written down are two very different things. It runs together. Possibly people are more familiar with hearing the Hawaiian language spoken, and they're relatively similar in that they're broken down on the page into very easy to pronounce short syllables. But when you hear them all run together, there's almost no break in it. So as an outsider, I was never sure where one word was stopping and another was beginning, which makes it confusing to listen to. That said, as I know I mentioned in the book, and it's not too much of a spoiler, it was a Welshman who actually went to Tahiti and realized that they didn't have a written language. So, as a linguist, he listened to what they were saying, created written letters that created the sounds they were making. And that's what is now the written form of the Tahitian language. And it came from a Welshman. Look, we Welshies get out and do all sorts of weird things. But everybody speaks French, so that's not really a problem. And they speak French with a delightful local accent. And when I got there, I was ready for Polynesian culture. I really wasn't prepared for was how exceptionally French it is. The store names, the types of stores, everything is in French. The patisseries are to die for. There is the French love of fine food and fine, but with all of the local ingredients brought in and then given a French twist that makes the cuisine absolutely fantastic. As long as you like, coconuts and bananas do play rather a large part in things, along with fish. So long as your palate is happy to accept those sorts of flavors, you're going to love it there. And the spices that have come over from China are just phenomenally intermingled with all of that. It's true fusion cuisine, and I would say it's true fusion language and culture. And until you get there and feel that mixture of how well it works, it's almost indescribable. In Wales, where I come from, particularly in South Wales, people speak English and people speak Welsh. But there's this middle ground called Wenglish, which is like a bastardized strangulation of Welsh and English together. And I didn't know that that was what I was speaking when I grew up, because you just pepper your language with words that have come from Welsh as opposed to coming from English. And eventually one has to realize that you have to leave out certain words and certain phraseologies, which make perfect sense where I come from, in the same way that they would make perfect sense to a Tahitian, but they wouldn't make sense to a French person necessarily, because they've taken a step sideways from that origin language. And it's a delightful mixture and utterly confusing at the same time. So I leaned into the French side of it, which is very French, but with a twist of vibrancy. Even the colors are so much more vibrant than even you would find in the south of France, for example.
Oh, that's wonderful. So you've mentioned Wales a few times, and so I'm just going to go ahead and say it's pretty obvious at this point, but why is your main character Welsh?
Well, let me think now. I mean, the thing is, the books are told in the first person, so they're always written with an accent. And this is the accent I've got. So she needs to have that accent as well. Now, she, like me, has lived in Canada for many years. When I started writing these books, I'd lived in Canada for about 10 years. Because, as with so many fictional characters, she's aging a lot less quickly than I am. She's still only lived in Canada for maybe 14 or 15 years, whereas I've been here for 25 now. So I've probably picked up even a little more of a Canadian twang, whereas Kate hasn't necessarily done that. But her choice of vocabulary is Welsh. Her background is Welsh. She's very much got my background. Surprise, surprise. And when I started writing these books, I couldn't find any working class Welsh detectives on the page. I mean, my publishers picked it up on the basis that she was Welsh Canadian and they were a Canadian publisher. But back in, around 2010-ish, there really weren't a lot of books being set in Wales or featuring Welsh characters. British publishers would say, no, you've got to set it in England. It will never sell. Now I'm pleased to say there are many more Welsh characters and many more Welsh set crime fiction offerings. We've got a collective now of Welsh crime writers called Crime Cymru. And in fact, in April in Aberystwyth, there will be a crime fiction writers festival, the Crime Cymru Festival. And we're going from strength to strength in that respect. But at the time, I was very keen to get a Welsh working class woman who solves mysteries using her brain rather than brawns or anything like that on the page, because there weren't any. And I mean, there still aren't a lot of us, but there are more now, which is good.
Yeah. Well, and she is so very smart, and she is a professor in Vancouver. In this book, she is doing online tutoring. Is that a part of your background as well?
It is, yes. Again, when I started writing these books, I was teaching at Simon Fraser University, and she's a professor at the University of Vancouver, which doesn't exist. But it's a synthesis of the University of British Columbia and Simon Fraser University, both of which were places where I was teaching. I've set it on a hill, so I've kind of located it where Simon Fraser University is. But the great thing was that while I was teaching marketing, nothing to do with writing, nothing to do with criminology. My background, I graduated in psychology as Kate did. But whereas I took mine into marketing and advertising, she decided to take hers, after a stint in marketing and advertising, into developing an understanding of the psychology of the criminal mind.
Mhm.
Very fortunately for me, at Simon Fraser University, they've got an incredibly strong school of criminology, and the head of the school allowed me to audit all of the courses while I was teaching there over about 3 or 4 years. So I went and audited all of the criminology courses and was able to sit in at the back. And the background that I've given Kate in terms of how she achieved her master's degree and then her doctorate is a background that was gifted to me by the head of department of that school of criminology, who told me that, Kate would have gone to Cambridge, she would have done her master's there, she would have started her doctorate there. And then I had Kate finishing her doctorate at the University of Vancouver. So all of that sort of grew out of what I was doing and what was surrounding me and what was available to me very kindly at the time. But I've never been a professor of criminology. Psychology is what my degree was in. Yeah.
That's wonderful. And one of the things she does, she keeps censoring herself to not make assumptions based on, all of this school and all of this teaching that she's been doing. And I just kind of love that she's like, no, 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 I need to back off. And then she charges right back in.
Yeah, she knows that. I mean, Bud, her husband is always telling her she's extremely judgmental, which she is. But that is sort of her job, as she says. My job is to judge people. So in real life, it's very difficult to not do that. But she tries to pull back. I always see their relationship as Kate would run off at 1,000 miles an hour in any given direction, and Bud is the one who's tethering her to reality and to a normal pace of life, and what the rest of humanity might accept as being normal behavior as well. Because she does, you're right, she edits. I've got this little device where I tell the reader what she's thinking and then tell the reader what she said. And the reader knows what she wants to say, but understands that she's being extremely polite and in control when the words finally come out of her mouth. Usually she edits herself. Sometimes she just doesn't manage it.
So um, one of so it's like we kind of have a good grasp of Kate and how Kate relates to you, but one of the characters is a very young, very powerful social media influencer. And I kind of wanted to know what you did to get the details of Cece right.
Oh, I got to admit, I love Cece. It's funny. I When I'm on Facebook, I'm there visiting with friends. And I've never indulged in, all those reels and the TikToky stuff and all of that. It's not an area I've ever ventured into until I thought this person needs to be a social influencer. I need to find out what they're like these days. Well, have you ever looked at them? I mean, but I would fail all the facial tutorials right now, and I don't really care about that. But you can go down this rabbit hole. It's quite extraordinary. And then when you look into how they do what they do and how, well, incredibly entitled their popularity online can lead them to become, it as a psychologist, I'm not particularly surprised, but that dopamine that you get from the likes and the engagement and the comments is very much underlying what's going on in that psychological situation, the bubble that people create for themselves, which becomes an echo chamber of how wonderful they are. And I wanted to bring that to the page because I think increasingly more and more of my readers are familiar with that concept.
Mhm.
And I like to always write relatable characters. They might not always be pleasant, but I would like them to be relatable. And I do think the influencer is now a relatable enough character. But I then wanted to go and peel the layers back to reveal the young woman who is beneath the shell of the influencer that she's created. And one of the themes running through the book, and I'm sure you've spotted this, is the corpse with the pearly smile. Lots of pearl things are involved. but the way that a pearl is built with layer upon layer upon layer of protection against an irritant is what all these characters have done to themselves. And I wanted to peel back those layers of nacre to make them naked. And Cece is possibly the most obvious character to whom that happens.
And it she is completely and 100% motivated,
Oh,
but uh as those layers come off and you actually see more of what she is, just the empathy that you've created for her is just wonderful.
oh,
Because
good.
that those first few scenes, I'm like, can we just kill her instead at this point?
I know who I want the next victim to be. You see, but we all do that, don't we? I mean, we crime readers, we crime viewers, we all have that. It's like, oh, just kill them now. They deserve to go. They're worthless, just a waste of skin. And yet, murder's never the answer.
Excellent point. So, one of the things I want to talk about, this book has been picked up for a series on television, and I'm sure our readers and fans would just be thrilled to hear how that process is going. I know you posted a pic of somebody that might be cast as Kate, and
Yeah, she has been cast, yes. Eve Miles is a Welsh actress. She's from a place called Ystrad, which is probably, within half an hour of where I was born and brought up, which is fantastic. She was my first choice for the character, as she was the production company. The series is going to begin with the first book. So the first book in the series is The Corpse with the Silver Tongue, and that takes place in the south of France. Um, at that time, as I say, it's only like 3 years earlier than this book is set. So a lot of things have happened to Kate. This is the 14th book, so they've all taken place within a few years. And I was, I mean, it's all going to sound terrible, really, but don't do what I say. Don't do what I do what I say. You should have an agent. You should do this professionally. I, however, was at a bar. Here we go. No, I was at Crime Fest, which is a crime writing convention, very much on the Left Coast Crime BoucherCon model in Bristol. It's held there annually. And the banquet on the Saturday evening had finished. And we all know what that's like. Everybody wants to get out all at the same time. And a few of us sloped off to like an open terrace to wait until the melee had died down. And I will name drop now because I was having a drink. I was there with Lee Child and Martina Cole and Peter James and Irsa Sigurðardóttir, and we're all having a drink and a puff. And Martina introduced me to someone that she knew. I said, "Oh, Cathy, this is Barry. Barry, this is Cathy. You two will get on like a house on fire." And she was right. She's such a good judge of character. Those weren't her exact words because every other word is blasphemous, but I won't go into. So I met Barry Ryan, and Barry and I were chatting like a house on fire, as I say. We couldn't work out how we'd never met in the 90s because we used to go to all the same places in London in the 90s. And at that point, I had no idea that he ran a TV production company. Then it was revealed to me that his company created the Agatha Raisin TV series.
I love
So which I'd seen and I really enjoyed because it's real British humor, it's very close to the wind and a bit naughty, but I do love it. It's a bit like Carry On with Dead Bodies on occasions, and he sees them as the Scooby-Doo team all solving mysteries. And we were having a chat, and he was asking me what I wrote about. I explained Kate to him. Well, by the next day, he'd skim read, obviously, a couple of the books. And he said, "I love her. I think she's wonderful." And it took 2 years from then, but they then optioned the books, the first 8 books. And that was February 2020. And I think we all remember what happened in March 2020. Bit of a lockdown. So we all nothing was going to happen. However, the fortunate thing was that at that time, Eve Miles was pregnant and had decided to take a couple of years off in any case to have the joy of her early childhood with her fourth child, I think it is. And when we came back then, when things started coming back to normal, which wasn't until about 2023, Three, because then there was the actors' strike and the writers' strike in Hollywood. So it was finally announced in May last year, 2024, at Crime Fest, that Eve Miles is now signed to play Kate. I've seen the script, which has been ready for about 3 years now, and I love it. It keeps the essence of Kate. I could not have written it. I'm pleased to say it's a man of Welsh heritage who's written it. And I couldn't have left out the bits he's left out, which needed to be left out for TV. And it's going to be 2 hours, so it'll probably be in two parts, with a divider in the middle, sort of thing. And I'm seeing Barry and the production company again in May this year at Crime Fest. And I'm looking forward to finding out what's happening. I do know what's happening, but I know at the moment I'm not allowed to say anything more about anything more. So I'm not. But Eve Miles has been fully announced, so I'm allowed to say that. And it's very exciting.
It is very exciting. And as I was reading, I was just kind of like picturing all of this. And I'm like, well, I can't wait to see this. I was at that Time Fest. That's where I heard you speak and
Yeah.
was very excited about that. And then one of the panels I went to was on Alfred Hitchcock. And I teach history of film and genre studies. And I always use Hitchcock, for my thrillers. And that I heard Barry speak on that panel. And I was like,
Yes.
oh, that's who that is. So I was so
That's who
excited
that is. Yes.
just
That
to
was an
even be in the
interesting
same
panel,
room.
wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, they've got a big telly panel at Crime Fest this year, and he'll be on that because they've got the John le Carre's two sons will be there. So they're talking about adapting written work for the television. And I do think that's important that when they did Agatha Raisin, it was about adapting what existed already, and that's very much what, as a production company, they want to focus on. Is not that creating for television isn't, not to say that that's bad, but they want to take what exists and bring the written word to the screen, which I'm pleased about, of course.
Of course, very much so. Very much so. Um, so what is next for Kate and what is next for Cathy?
Well, oh, Cathy's really busy at the moment. The first 8 Kate books, I got the rights back to them last year. And I had to write 3 books last year, new books. So I've been very slow to get to the second editions of those 8 books. 2 came out last year, but since they came back to me, The Corpse with a Silver Tongue was the first book I ever wrote. So I've gone back to it now, having written 24 more. And I think I can do a slightly different job with it. So I want to take the opportunity to rework these manuscripts without changing the story, but certainly allowing my voice to come through. I didn't know what my voice was when I wrote those first few books. I didn't have arguments with my editor. I didn't know what to stand up for and to let past. And as I'm reading them now, I hear my editor's voice, not my voice. And I'm now certain enough of my voice to go back and recreate them with my voice coming through. So that process has been undertaken. This year so far, the 11th Wise Inquiries Agency mystery just came out earlier this week. So that was written and published. Thank you. The second editions of the second edition of the third Kate Morgan mystery has come out. The second edition of the fourth Kate Morgan mystery has come out. The second edition of the fifth Kate Morgan mystery will come out later this month. And I'm currently working on updating covers and creating hard covers for other numbers in the series. So that's all happening. As far as Kate new books are concerned, well, I can tell you first, so long as you don't promise to tell anyone else, okay?
Sure.
This year, children, Kate's going to Paris in the book this year. Yep. So I was there doing research last year. Unfortunately, I sprained my cruciate ligament while I was in Paris. So half the things I wanted to see, I didn't get to see. I've been there many times in the past, but things change, and these are contemporary novels, so I want them to be accurate for now. So the top of the Arc de Triomphe was out of the question for me and things like that. So I'm going back again this year to see all the things I didn't manage to do last year. So this year, Kate is going to be going to Paris. I'm not going to tell you the title of the book. It will be revealed later in the year, and that'll probably come out in time for people to read through August into September, and then there will be another Wise Inquiries Agency mystery in the autumn into winter. So those are the new books this year, three, and those second editions will continue to come out. But nobody else knows about Paris yet. So you're the first to know.
Ooh. Thank you. An exclusive for the Blackbird
It
Writers.
is. Yeah.
Um, you said all that.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted
And
on
for me,
half.
well, I don't know. I don't quite. I am going to Florence this year as well, so that might be a clue for where Kate's going in the future. I haven't been there since I was 18. I've written a novella set there called Negroni, interestingly enough, because I that is where I fell in love with Negronis. And it's a wonderful, wonderful drink. And it's a very bitter, sweet, acquired taste drink, which is what the short story was about. And I think I might have to pack Kate off to Florence next year so she can have some European adventures rather than North American or Caribbean or South Pacific. I'll pack her off to Europe a couple of times. She'll enjoy that. She'll love the food and the history and the art and the architecture, all of the things she adores.
Well, that sounds wonderful. I can't wait for that. So finally, where can our fans find you? Social media, website, things like that.
Well, in real life, I'm really hard to track down. But virtually speaking, my website is cathyace.com. My name.com, you'll find me. And it's got links to my Facebook page, a link to my Blue Sky, which I've just started and I'm really not very good at yet. I don't tweet very often, but there is a link there. Facebook is where I meet and discuss and talk with people and chatter and follow people. So the links are there for that as well. As is my email address, and people can actually email, and I do read them, and it is me. There's just me. I read them, and I do engage on Facebook. I like Facebook. It lets you chat a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for meeting with us today, and thank you all for watching Blackbird Writers Presents Author Interviews.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Bye-bye.